Good evening and welcome to the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great day. And of course, we are halfway through to the weekend. Just want to give a shout out to everyone who will be catching the broadcast on the replay, whether that's in YouTube land or over on Facebook. Thank you so much for being a loyal viewer of the Angela Ray Show. For all of you who will be joining tonight's broadcast live, I want you to do me a favor. Go ahead and slide in those comments. Let me know who your favorite artist is. October, among many observances during the month of October, October is National Arts and Humanities Month. And so we're kicking off a series with guests in various disciplines through the arts. And so tonight, my guest is a visual artist. And so I'm just curious if you follow visual arts. I would love to know who your favorite artist is. But you know how we do every single week. We get the party started with the Ray of Motivation moment. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I would just like to remind you that you want to start asking for help until it no longer makes you cringe. Ask for help until it no longer makes you cringe. And what do I mean by that? I'm not Usher, but these are my confessions. I will do something by myself so that I don't have to ask anyone. I am just not a person who likes asking for help, no matter what it is. And the times that I have had to ask for help, it's one of those things that, as they say, I might have to beat around the bush. I might have to psych myself up to actually ask for help. But that is what we are on earth for. We are on earth to be partners, to be in fellowship with our friends, with our family members, with our neighbors. And when I say asking for help, I'm not talking about, every other day you're, knocking on a neighbor's door asking them for something because you didn't go to the store or you didn't go to the grocery store, or you're always asking people in your circle for money. That's not what I mean. I'm just talking about those occasional opportunities when you need that extra support. That again is what we are here for. We are meant to be in fellowship and we are meant to support one another. So I just want to remind you to ask for help until you no longer cringe. In other words, when you do need that assistance, and sometimes it can be something as simple as someone maybe helping you out with a project that you have for a community organization, or it could be something as simple as just someone helping you out with something in your home. For my ladies, maybe you need help moving something around or hanging a piece of artwork. See what I did there in your home. But again, you want to approach asking for help as just a normal part of fellowship, one with the other. And that is tonight's Ray of Motivation moment. Well, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this is National Arts and Humanities Month, and so I'm really excited to really focus a light on those who are doing magnificent things in the arts. But I do want to let you all know, if you don't know, we do have a very exclusive club here at the Angela Ray Show called the A List. Are you on the A List? If you are not on the A List, you are missing out. We have exclusive giveaways, member discounts, backstage access to our guests, and much more. Be sure to send an email to the A List at Angela Ray TV. Again, that is the A List at Angela Ray TV, because we will be doing a giveaway on air next week. So you want to make sure that you stay tuned. So my guest tonight is Eric McRay. He received his BFA degree at the Maryland Institute of College and Art Design. He's a native of Washington, D.C., but he has been a resident of the Triangle area in North Carolina for many years. And his artistic career has been featured on television, radio programs, in numerous newspapers and magazines. And some of his collectors have included SAS Institute, one of my personal favorites, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, as well as many private collectors locally, nationally, and internationally. So please help me welcome my guest tonight, Eric McRay. Eric, thank you so much for being on the Angela Radio
Hello.
tonight.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
So, Eric, I
Hmm.
must say that I have been a fan of paintings for many years, but it
Hmm.
was a painting that you created that prompted me to actually buy my first piece of original artwork. I'm just curious, how many of your collectors start with one of your paintings as their first piece of artwork?
Oh my goodness. I'm very anti-elitist, and I'm of the attitude of art is for everyone, and to make art accessible. And that's one of my missions. I consider myself somewhat of an emissary of the arts, and what I often do is go into the schools, different social groups, and different settings, and meet with the public. And for many years, I was at Art Space in downtown Raleigh for 20 plus years, and we had an open door policy, and part of that was to make the arts accessible to people. So folks would come in and actually watch me create, and I'd have dialogues with everyone that came through, and I'd meet people from all over the world. And so what happened was there were people who had zero interest in art, and then all of a sudden they said, "Hey, I've actually gained interest in this, and I want to read about it. I want to study it. You make this exciting." And then folks would start collecting. They may start off with something small, like a small original or a signed edition print or a poster, and then work their way up to larger works. And some would dive into the deep end because they had the resources and buy
Okay.
larger originals. So for me, that was just a major thing because art was no longer over there or up there in the ivory tower. It was something that people could enjoy and make part of their home and their experience.
So I know you studied art in college, but prior to that, how did you get started? Were you drawing? Did you start painting from the beginning?
Hmm.
What drew you to art?
My mother said I started drawing at 2 years old, and that's nothing phenomenal. I mean, I wasn't drawing the Mona Lisa at two, but the thing was that like most young people, you give them crayons or something, and they try to write and draw. My experience was that I just never stopped, and most people stop, and it was just something very natural to me, very innate aspect of my life. It was just who I was, and my mother said at one point, she said she realized I was art, and so I've always this has been my lifelong vocation, my great obsession, my dream, and this is what I've turned my life toward, and is my purpose. And so I've been making art my whole life, and very young, I think I was in the first or second grade. I had an epiphany that I understood that the art that I created, impacted others positively. Thus, it even more so gave me drive to create and to connect with others. I mean, the idea of making a piece of art and then put it in a closet, it doesn't have any interaction. It's like playing music out in the middle of nowhere. No one hears it, so it has no real life or experience. So making art and it then interacting with others was part of my objective, to enlighten, to enrich, to entertain, whatever art can do for someone, inspire, soothe, and just all kind of touch the soul, touch the mind. So that's what I've been doing my whole life, and eventually it turned into a career, into a business. But before it was that, it was just me, just a young person, sitting in front of the television, drawing spaceships and cartoons and all the kind of stuff that little boys do that did inspire them and entertain.
Now you mentioned this epiphany. How old did you say you were again?
I was in the first grade,
So
so
you were
I've
6
known,
years
yeah.
old. So describe first of all, now you may have had an epiphany, but did you know that it was an epiphany? Because I didn't know what an epiphany was at 6 years old. So describe
I
this
think I
epiphany that
did. I
you
think I
had.
did. I didn't know the word, but I knew the experience. I kind of always you always see the analogy, the kind of the visual metaphor of the apple falling on Sir Isaac Newton's head and plopping him on the head, and he got the understanding of gravity. And I think when I was a young person, what happened was the teacher asked who would like to help with the bulletin board, and I raised my hand. I was really enthusiastic, and yeah, the other kids were kind of blasé about it. And I did something about Rumpelstiltskin with construction paper, and the teacher was so impacted, she ran off and gathered teachers from other classrooms, and they came in, and they were all like, "Look what he did," and she specifically said, "He, him, me," that I had created something that moved her, and then the other adults were just so impressed. And I guess it was advanced for somebody my age. And then I just, like I said, I had this epiphany that, oh, I'm playing and I'm having fun, and this is very natural. I didn't think it was anything exceptional because it was just me being me. And I realized that it had impact. And then it gave me a certain power. I guess I realized that was my superpower. That was my origin, so to speak. And it just never stopped. It was, but it let me know the impact of a teacher, and that teacher, as well as one in high school, and others I had in college, they were and mentors was so impactful in my life. So I've committed probably the last 5 or 6 years, probably 6 years, very seriously to teaching others, and also for the last 15 years or so, last 20 years mentoring, really helping young artists to get established, and several of them gone on to do very well. So it's back to that moment in time when you realize your purpose, and that came upon me very early, and I'm very very thankful for that.
You mentioned that you have been mentoring as well as teaching.
Hmm.
In terms of your teaching, and this actually was it last night? The days
Hmm.
start to run together sometimes when you work from home. But
Oh
just
yeah.
last night, I hosted an event
Hmm.
for an organization that was celebrating their anniversary, and
Hmm.
so they shipped canvas out to all of the employees, and
Oh
there was
wow.
an artist who had a painting, and she walked everyone through. It was relatively simple. It was
Hmm.
sunset and maybe three trees, but she
Hmm.
walked everyone through, kind of guiding them through this painting. And I didn't have a canvas. I'm probably glad I didn't. I've never necessarily thought of myself as having that type of
Uh-huh.
artistic talent, but there was someone who created, I think the painting that she created, the model, if you will, it was
Hmm.
palm trees. And so there
Hmm.
was someone, as people were, getting spotlighted on Zoom because everything is on Zoom these days.
Hmm.
There was a young man who actually created these fir trees that almost look like Christmas trees.
Oh
And so
wow.
she was, I think I was blown away. She was like, "Okay, obviously you've painted before." And he was like, "No, I haven't." And she was like, "There's no way you have not painted before." And
Hmm.
he was like, "No, really, this is my first time painting." So it sounds like, I don't know if last night he discovered another talent that he didn't know, but it seems like that experience that he had was somewhat similar to what you had
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first grade.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm amazed. I like to sing, but I've only done it publicly once, twice, and I did so poorly the second time I wasn't asked to sing a second time publicly. But the point is, you think some people just open their mouth and it's like these melodic sounds come out. And I'm like, well, how do they do that? Well, how's that even possible? And the other person tries it, and it sounds like a foghorn or something. So I think everyone has a natural ability or talent. One of the things I say is that I ask the Lord. I say, Lord, show me what my talents are, and then give me the courage to pursue them.
Okay, we got a question. Oh boy, it's a good one. So, Edwin is one of our very loyal viewers here at
Hmm.
the Angela Ray Show, and so I'm going to pop this on the screen.
Okay.
I've always wondered, how do creative artists determine the value for your work? Do you feel artists of color are given their true value compared to their counterparts? I know. I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
boy,
that's a
we just
good one."
start. Oh man, we jumping right into the deep water,
I'm
right?
saying it's just like,
Um,
let's do it. Yeah.
okay. For me, art is the value of art is really market driven. For me, I mean, some artists value their art based off their ego, and they say, "Well, I'm so wonderful, and my grandma thinks I can really paint, and grandma likes this picture, so I'm gonna ask $10,000 for it." Well, bless them and grandma, you know what I mean? But and then others base it off of hourly. I took 50 hours to paint this and create this, and they base it like it's hourly wage, like they're working in a factory or something. For me, making art, of course, I've taken consideration the material costs, but really it's market driven. It's really based off what someone's willing to pay for the work. And over time, as you build your brand, and your reputation, the value of the art can appreciate. And I've spent a lifetime building my brand, my reputation, a certain amount of notoriety, and that has increased the value of my work as well as the quality of the work and the insight. Um, so I found that that has impacted the value over time, and I'm able to get some pretty handsome prices for my work. But at the same time, I intentionally try to create things that give an entryway for everyone to own and to possess quality art. Concerning counterparts, and so like they always say, life's not fair, and that's true. It's not fair. But um, I can say I've been very fortunate, but I won't say I've been lucky in the sense of like it just fell in my lap. You know what they say? I spent 20 years being an overnight success, and and the same time I can say that I have worked really hard for what I have. I've been blessed to with certain talents, but I've worked real hard to build my skill sets. So when I'm compared to others, regardless of their ethnicity or gender or whatever, um, I really think the cream rises to the top, and I've shown that I can excel regardless of challenges placed before me. But as they say, life's not fair, and I'm gonna leave it as simple as that. But I know there are artists of color who are very successful, and I base my objectives and my goals off of their success, knowing that there are others who have been pioneers who cut a pathway for others, such as myself. And I personally have worked really hard over the last 25 plus years to do that for the generations of artists behind me. And I remember when I could only get an exhibition during Black History Month.
Ooh,
I,
talk
I,
about it though. Talk about it though. Talk about that though.
I was invisible until February,
No,
and
they called you January 15th so they can make sure they had you by
yeah,
By February.
I was actually bold enough to ask people directly. You contacted me specifically because of Black History Month, and they they kind of have this, and I understand that. I'm not offended by that, but I would say, well, I decline your offer. But how about we do something in July? November works. So I guess I try to take command of a circumstance. So I think I'm rambling at this point. I guess I'm skirting around
You
the
are.
question.
You are. You
I'm
beat
skirting
around the
around the
bush.
question,
You are.
because
I'm gonna call you out.
but I think I said what I had to say. I think you understand my point, and um, but I'll just go back and say life's not fair, but I don't cry over spilt milk or the fact that things aren't always equitable.
You know,
Regardless, I've achieved.
right. When you mentioned that, it reminded me. I prior to my film and television career taking off, I was doing a lot of live performances, sometimes theater, but just sometimes smaller performances. And that used to be kind of a running joke between some of my counterparts and I that, from about January, I'd say 10th because of MLK. So,
Hmm.
there would be those MLK celebrations that may go that entire week. And then people were looking to start booking for Black History Month. I was
Mhm.
so booked from
Mhm.
about mid-January to February, and yeah, I
And
won't.
I same way. I mean, January, February can be slow for a lot of folks, and I've learned how to capitalize off of that kind of interest, and make my winter very very profitable and full. But at the same time, I want to work every month. I want to stay busy every month, and so I have an expectation that I won't be pigeonholed or boxed in to meet someone's um, their expectations of me or who they think I am. I, don't- I work real hard not to be defined by other people. That's a big part of I think being an artist or being any kind of creative soul is that you're really you're finding your own making your own statement about who you are as an individual, and thus you have the right to say this is who I am and this is who I'm not, and in some ways just take it or leave it. And
Now,
I
Eric,
can do it with a smile too.
do you have anything that I don't know what you may have nearby. Do you have anything that you want to show us? Any of your pieces? I know we right before we went live,
Hmm.
I showed the two pieces of yours that I have. My very
Uh-huh.
first piece of artwork,
Thank you.
Simple
Thank you.
Sisters. That was the very first piece of artwork that I got and ended up putting it on the cover of my first book, Black
Yeah, I
Girl
remember that.
Whisperer.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
exciting. Very
yeah.
exciting.
So,
Uh,
but what has your style changed? Because my
oh
second
my
piece
gosh.
was a part of that jazz collection, and there was
Hmm.
a time where I could be anywhere in Durham, and I knew without looking at the signature, that's Eric McRay's painting because
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
jazz series was very
yeah.
unique to
Oh
you.
yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things, one of my trademarks. But I some of my favorite artists throughout history worked in themes and series like Edgar Degas' ballerinas, Picasso's bullfighters, Monet's water lilies. And so early on when I was in college, I realized that was a method by which I could work that eliminated any kind of creative block. I knew that today I'm going to make a jazz musician, and when I woke up, that's what I knew I was on this path. So that's why you see such a large body of that work. And over the years, I did an extensive series of heart paintings. Like a heart, the icon, the heart, jazz musicians, landscapes, coastals. Now I'm producing a lot of abstract work, so I have a range of styles and subjects that I've worked in over the last 30 years. I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm not an old man. So I've been doing this a long time, and professionally and as an adult, and produced a lot of work. And that jazz series has been really instrumental in building my reputation and connecting with people. But I brought that series to an end. I only have maybe 5 paintings from that series. You can see them on my website, ericmcray.com. I think it's about maybe 5 remaining that I have available, and I have signed editions, prints of that work. But I kind of moved on to more abstract work, and periodically I'll paint some landscapes or whatnot. But yeah, 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 that jazz work is I learned so much about being a great painter in that process. It challenged me all constantly challenged me because I was trying to paint the invisible. I wasn't just painting musicians or instruments, but I was painting music. And what does music look like? And I was painting the invisible. I was painting vibrations. I was painting sounds. I was painting, that whole cacophony of sound when musicians play. And I wanted it to touch a person on an emotional or spiritual level, and use color and pattern and paint quality to communicate kind of a synesthesia of where color makes you hear sound. So it was a deep exploration, and I learned a lot about painting, and I'm still on that journey of learning. In a lot of ways, I'm still that little boy that's passionate about this, regardless what I sell the paintings for, what accolades I get. It's still that hunger, that fire in the belly that I have every day to create in some way, to think about how to create. And so that's what I do. And going forward, I'm preparing to do some metal sculpture, abstract metal sculpture. I'm producing a book about my landscapes and my coastal works, and another book, 3 books in process. Lots of new work, big commission projects. Um, my calendar is pretty full, so I'm very
That's a
blessed.
blessing.
I'm
That is
very
definitely a
blessed.
blessing. You were mentioning some of these things that you had coming up, and that really is a great transition into the next question that Edwin has, which is, what other artistic expressions do you enjoy and or would like to explore? Especially since you were talking about doing some things with sculpture, and
Hmm.
having some commission pieces coming up as well.
I mean, all my life I've been mainly a 2D artist, drawing and painting and doing collage. My collage works have been very well received and critically acclaimed. Some people say that's my legacy work, my museum work, and that work has been placed in a lot of uh, corporate and museum collections, and then a lot of collectors from the bigger cities, so to speak, like London, New York, uh, Baltimore, places in California and DC buy that work primarily. But I like to write. I'm not a really great writer, but I like to write. I have a publishing company called Giant Star Entertainment, and I work with my creative partner Mike Wilson and Daryl Brown, and we produce graphic novels. I always love comics and things like that. That's how I learned how to draw. So it is a separate endeavor that's really what you consider low art, so to speak, comic books and graphic novels, but the content and the messages in there are very sophisticated and very mature in that nature, and a lot of fun too. You can find that work on Facebook and Instagram also. But as a fine artist, these new sculptural works that I have planned are major for me. I'm looking at making 3 to 6 of these works. Also, been delving into doing hand painted ceramics. So I just do my thing. I don't necessarily have to anybody tell me what to do. I don't really have creative blocks. I think if anything, my concern is that I don't have enough time and materials and energy to do it all. So, hopefully, I live to be hundreds of years old. I can get it all done.
You said hundreds with an S.
Hundreds. I'm
That's
greedy.
hundreds with
I'm
an S.
greedy. I'm greedy. I want biblical life because it's a lot. The ideas keep coming, and just so much that I want to do, and I'm very thankful for every day.
I'm just curious, do you have a favorite piece that you've created or a couple that it's like,
Hmm.
oh, almost that when you finished it, even though you know there was more creativity left, you wonder, could you do it this well again?
Yeah, I did a painting when I was in college in 1985. The piece was called Float, and it was a painting of a balloon floating in a pothole of water. Very, very beautifully painted oil painting. It was like 36 by 48 inches. I was 20 years old when I painted that, and I'd only been oil painting maybe like 2 years. And that work was so monumental. I mean, it was way beyond my years. And then the Baltimore Sun wrote about me in that work, and I was a young college student. I was, hungry and trying to make it, and I sold it to an attorney that and some other works and received a good amount of money for 1985. Bought a whole lot of ramen, a lot of ramen noodles with that in 1985. And that work, I was glad I sold that because what happened was the painting had received as an artist, you want to be able, for me as an artist, you want to paint a work that we say Van Gogh's Starry Night or Picasso's Guernica or Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, that you've done a significant work in among the hundreds that you may produce, if not thousands. And Float was one of those works when I was 20 years old. I think it was my first mature work, and I sold that work. And many years later, I contacted that lady, and I called her, and she said, and I was willing to pay her $1,000 to buy that painting back, at least $1,000. And contacted her, and but I'm glad I sold it because if I had kept it, it would have stunted my growth artistically. And I've seen artists do that. They create something and they're so impacted by what they've done, they feel like cannot surpass themselves. They stunt their own growth. So I'm glad I got it out of my life. So many years later, if I owned it, it wouldn't have been a hindrance. It would have been something I would cherish. And this is rare that I contact somebody to buy work back. And I called her and she said, "So Eric, so good to hear from you." And we had a lot of small talk and chit chat. And then she said, "So Eric, I haven't talked to you in probably over 10 plus years." It had to be 10, 15 years later. And she said, "Why are you contacting me now?" And she said, "You didn't contact me to buy that painting back, did you?" And I said, oh no, I'm just kind of trying to work my way out of it. And she said, Eric, that is the focal point of my house. She said, people at the Maryland Institute still talk about you and talk about that painting. She said, I'd have to be on a heating grate and have a nickel in my pocket if I'd ever let that painting go. I said,
Wow.
well, I said, well, it was great talking to you. And and enjoy the painting. And I wrapped that conversation up and got off the phone because I knew it's pretty much that painting wasn't leaving her house. She said folks from the school would still come by to look at this work. And here it is, it was many, many years later, but the work still held up over the test of time. It didn't seem like student grade work. And so that was a significant work in my life. And I mean, I've done other things, but that was, like I said, my first mature work. And I was only 20 years old.
I felt that way about poetry that,
Mm.
that I've written some poems, and there was a time that I was like, I don't know if I have it in me to write better than this. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I do understand that, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I've had some challenges though, like where I was given some topics, similar, slightly commissioned,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
given some topics and really amazed myself. I was like, oh, there is more there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not, for me as an artist, I do write, but I'm also a performing artist. So
Mm-hmm. Very
I'm not
talented one, too.
always writing. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't know if I have any more in me. So I definitely understand that in terms of just, reaching a certain point and just wondering, is there anything else left? Um,
Huh. Well, I mean, I found that with me, I consider my art my journal. So as I live, and then my perspective changes, and then people I meet and places I go and things I do, I find that those works just kind of appear. In the last year, a few years, created this body of work that's been really impactful and well received, and it just life happened and the work happened. It's an offshoot of who you are, and uh, I don't make the art that a 25-year-old man makes. I make the work of a man in his 50s now.
we got one final question before we wrap up. What three pieces of advice do you have for anyone who chooses a career as an artist?
I would say um, don't let someone's insults, criticisms, or opinions go to your heart and damage your sense of self. We could all improve. We can all grow. We could all get better at our craft. But someone's opinions aren't necessarily the end all and be all to who you are and uh, how you should respond to your own art and yourself. Because every art is very so subjective. Some I've had people say jazz music sounds like junk to them. I see it as America's classical music. So um, do I let that define me? No. So I would say one is don't let stuff go to you. Don't let stuff hurt you and keep a level head. And when somebody tells you you're a genius or you're the best around, don't let it blow you up and you just get big headed and difficult. So one is keep a level head. Two is be disciplined. Don't be driven by the muse, so to speak. Not oh it's raining today or it's sunny today or I had hot cup of coffee or whatever, whatever kind of makes you happy or brings you down. You should learn to be able to create consistently, regardless of situations. Thirdly, I would say keep it fun. Keep it fun. I mean, because when you create for a living, so to speak, and it's no longer your pastime or your hobby, now you're expected to perform on key, on point when it's time to like playing basketball. They throw you the ball. It's time to go out there and win. It's not just guys shooting the ball over the weekend. You're in the big leagues. So if you want to achieve, you have to have a certain amount of discipline to be able to get it, go for it, and have fun while you're doing it. So keep a level head, have be disciplined, and have a lot of fun. I mean, find that childlike wanderlust, that drive, that passion that makes you want to wake up early to create and do, and go to bed late, and it just your end all and be all. You're having a ball. You're playing. You're having fun. What was this? Somebody says a quote where Michael Jordan say he never worked a day in his life. Of course he worked, but it's what he was doing, what he was meant to do. It's obvious. And so when you're using your talents and in your realm, it should be easy, and allow it to be easy. Get other folks out your head and allow and make take your time for you to create.
Great advice, Eric. Well, If you'd like to connect with Eric, you can definitely connect with him on his website, ericmcray.com. Also, his Instagram is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So great to
Mhm.
catch up with you, Eric.
Thank
Enjoy
you
the
so
rest of your
much.
evening. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Enjoy
thank
the
you. I
rest of your
appreciate you
evening.
having me here.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that is it for tonight's Angela Ray show. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast that you want to make sure that you are on the A list. We have some giveaways coming up, member only discounts, backstage access with our guests, and much, much more. So you can join the A list by sending an email to the A list at Angela Ray TV. I mentioned that this is National Arts and Humanities Month. It is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wear my ribbon in honor of my late sister who lost her battle with breast cancer in 2009. And to all of you who are thrivers and survivors, definitely want to salute you. Well, that is it for tonight's Angela Ray show. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you all to go out and be the change. Have a great